Welcome to Musings Television, where your host, Fabian, invites you to bloom with a new perspective that will encourage, uplift, and inspire.
Good morning. Welcome to Musings as we muse today from my kitchen on this Heroes Day weekend, where as we muse, I'll be preparing some Jamaican delicacies, if you want to call it that, national dish, Ackee and Saltfish, with some halibut, which I'm about to clean and cooked. And of course that will be had with some Jamaican roast breadfruit. So we're going to muse, and as we all know, Musings television is inspired by the book Musings of the Mind, prose to encourage, inspire, and uplift. And today we'll be musing from chapter 2 on the Muse of the Grand Canyon as we shell down in the kitchen. Welcome. So let's get it going. So here I have in my frying pan some seasoning that have been diced. We have some bell peppers here, onion, some thyme and garlic, and some scallion. Now one would normally buy tomato to be a part of that, but at Coronation Market yesterday, tomato was $500 or $400 a pound, so I decided that I'd forego that this week, given the price tag on that. So we're going to have our vegetables being sauteed, to which we then add our shredded saltfish, and then our ackee, which has already been cooked and awaiting the pot. I'm also boiling today some, you can't see it, but it's beetroot, to make some beetroot juice. And I think it's just about done. I had it on before, so I can now turn off this stove while I go over to the sink and continue to shred my halibut, which I bought at Curry yesterday. Yeah. So it's a lockdown Sunday, as we all know, as we continue to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. We are under certain restrictions by virtue of the government's strategy to fight the spread. Our movement has been restricted, so it's a long weekend. Tomorrow is Heroes Day, and of course today is Sunday. So we're locked in a sense, for those of us who obey the law anyway, and will be out doing what we care to do otherwise. But certainly, that is what you got to make yourself comfortable in the lockdown. Can you hear my pot sizzling with the seasoning for the Ackee and Saltfish? So you might hear in the background some music. But I am listening to why did I do this? You have to clean the palate before you put it up. And of course you're going to wash this in some salt water in the sink to remove any dirt etc. from it before you put it up. This too will pass, your days come, the tears may flow. So let's do the salt to wash this color. Okay, I need to stir this thing before it starts to possibly burn. The idea is not to just let it burn, but sauteing to the vegetable just a bit soft, and what we say caramelized. So that's happening there. And so we said we were going to use on the Muse of the Grand Canyon, and this Muse was written, I think it was written in 2018 actually, on my first trip, or my only trip thus far to Las Vegas. You know what they say, whatever they do in Vegas stays in Vegas. So the Muse of the Grand Canyon, and it reads, if the thought of change can be so uncomfortable, imagine the actual change itself. We turn on the fire because this thing is kind of, yeah. I don't know if anybody has ever, if you have been to the Grand Canyon, I did not go on my trip to Las Vegas actually, but I've seen what you'd see, pictures of the Grand Canyons and the carvings that has occurred over time. I'm going to now add my saltfish to this thing because I think the fire was a bit too high. We're going to kind of scorch the veggies while I'm here chopping away. So I'm adding my saltfish to the veg, or the seasoning as it were. And I'm going to add some color seasoning to this to get a little spice in it, taste. I have several different kinds of things in here. So this is a combination of mixed spices, and there are others. There's Badia complete. We have parsley dried. We have cilantro. We have basil. And all sorts of other things. Okay. So nice and pot. So I'm going to add some of this. This is a mixed seasoning, which is more or less complete. It has salt and everything in it, so you don't necessarily have to add any salt to it. And of course, using saltfish, which is normally salt, so you don't necessarily need to add any salt, especially if you have not soaked all the saltiness out of the saltfish whilst you would have been preparing it. Many people don't use this, but I would add a ketchup in it, especially since I have no tomatoes as part of the seasoning that I have added to it. And then I'm going to add my cooked ackee. And I'll just stir this up. guess my the oops, I missed the tomato or the color that it actually gives. Gives the food. Right. So that is more recipe. I'm just going to leave it on the stove for a bit longer so that it can, and then I'm just adding some dried parsley on top of it. I'm going to put a little bit more oil in the pot because it's a bit dry. Yeah, and allow it to just simmer a bit before I turn that off. And then we have our Ackee and Saltfish, just like that. So yeah, if you have never gone to the Grand Canyon, which I haven't done, but I've seen pictures of the beauty of how the earth has been excavated over time, no doubt by the force of water. And so this is what really inspired this musing as I reflected on change. Because certainly if you think about it, if the earth could speak, Celine Dion has a song that says the voice would talk. But if the earth could speak, I'm sure it would tell you of how uncomfortable it is, or it was, to have the force of water actually excavating its matter, in a sense. Right? If we think of our own bodies, for example, and this might not be a comparable example, but if we think of our own bodies, when you get a cut, you know, or sometimes if you have belly ache, for example, and you can feel like things are moving up in your belly, and it hurts you. That, to my mind, can be likened to that kind of force that is pulling away at your very matter, the soil, to create that beauty that is the Grand Canyon, right? So it is that thought that inspired the imagery of the Grand Canyon that really inspired this particular muse. And it says that if the thought of change can be so uncomfortable, imagine the actual change itself. Yet there is no progress in being comfortable. The beauty of the Grand Canyon is as a result of uncomfortable friction. The force that carved out its beauty to be beheld by generations yet to come. Find your path to success through the uncomfortable friction within you, creating your change. Metamorph into your destiny. And at the end here, there's another quote which says, launch out into the deep where the catch is nightly aplenty. Abandon the shore where the catch cannot survive but is lifeless. And we can muse a bit further on these two thoughts, because many of us, I'm sure, at some point in our lives would have considered change. And sometimes we are so comfortable in the status quo, or what is. Can you see? How does it look? We are so comfortable in the status quo, or what is, that we allow ourselves to remain stagnant in a sense, right? We don't move because we are fearful sometimes of the uncertainty that comes with change. We don't know what is going to happen if we take that next step. But if we don't take the step, we truly indeed will not know what will happen. we can't predict the future in a sense, right? Or in most cases, we can't predict the future. We can look at certain things and make projections, but even those projections are not guaranteed to come to fruition. And so therein lies the point that is to be taken away from us being comfortable at times. It is uncomfortable to come out of our comfort zones, but it's only coming out of our comfort zones that we are going to be able to come into the possibilities that lies ahead. Those things that we can't foresee that might be out there waiting for us. It could be good, it could be bad, but in the bad we will learn lessons that will build us, strengthen our resolve, and help us to pivot, especially in this period of COVID, where so many people have had to be pivoting and taking on new things that they probably never thought they would have done. They are now having to do it because of the need to survive, essentially, in a sense. So, being comfortable, if the Grand Canyon or the lands that are now representative, illustrative of what the Grand Canyon is, was just comfortable and resisted the change that the force of water over time was bringing to it, that would create this masterpiece, essentially, that visitors flock to see and to admire and to behold, then there would be nobody going there now to relish what essentially the forces of nature has created. A beauty which is now on postcards going all over the world, or images that is used in advertising, backdrop for movies, backdrop for video shoot, photo shoot for any collection that a designer might want to depict. So you see that there is much possibility and promise when we move beyond our comfort zones. In my own case, I think this, for me, certainly is one way that I am moving outside of my comfort zone. The actual inspiration to have self-published this book is one such another example of me wanting to move outside of my comfort zone. Launching a brand, Affirmation Couture, is another example of me seeking to move outside of my comfort zone. And not just move outside of your comfort zone, but seeking to action your talents and your gifts that you have been bestowed with. Right? Each of us have talents, we have gifts, we have abilities that we are not using because we are too comfortable in our comfort zones. And we don't know the wealth and possibilities that really lie in those talents and those gifts if we just move outside of our comfort zones and seek to put those things to good use. So today, as I muse from my kitchen to you, I would want to encourage you to move out of that comfort zone that you have. To take stock, run inventory of your talents and your gifts, and see how it is that those can assist you in moving beyond your comfort zones, to realizing the possibilities and the potential and the wealth that lies within those gifts and talents that you can unearth and come into greater fulfillment in your life. It could lead to greater wealth in your life, especially in this time when people are having to be pivoting because of COVID. You know, you might have been doing something all these years, and you might have been somehow possibly using that talent but using it sparingly, or that gift and using it sparingly, but something would have happened to what you call your mainstream in this period of COVID that has now plummeted, well, not plummeted, but which has now allowed you to really appreciate and kind of rally back on that thing that you have been doing sparingly, because it just might have been the thing that is seeing you through this period after your mainstream has been affected by COVID. So, are we going to launch out into the deep by coming out of our comfort zones? Or are we going to stay on the shore where that catch cannot survive unless it is dead? Yeah? There's no, for sea mammals, there's no life outside of the water. But even in the world at large, a lot of economies now are becoming in tune with what they call the blue economy, the very extent of wealth that lies in the deep and the depths of the sea. So this launch out into the deep where the catches are likely aplenty, abandon the shore where the catch cannot survive but is lifeless, is really an encouragement aimed at inspiring us to look to those areas in life where we are able to maximize our potential. That area most likely cannot be where we find comfort in our comfort zones. So today, launch out into the deep. Muse on the Grand Canyon. Let that uncomfortable friction within you allow you to metamorph into your destiny. So, from my kitchen to you, that has been Musings of the Mind today on the eve of Heroes Day in Jamaica. Remember, you can order a copy of the book Musings of the Mind, Goes to Encourage, Inspire, and Uplift on Amazon.com. You can check out Affirmation Couture at affirmationcouture.com. And of course, join me again for another episode of Musings of the Mind via Musings Television on YouTube as we contemplate the entries in this, my first authored publication, as well as other muses that will birth themselves outside of this book. But get out of that comfort zone, metamorph into your destiny, launch out into the deep. Until next time, be cool and enjoy some Ackee and Saltfish when you can. Peace.
There you have it, this week's Musings. We hope you found it encouraging, inspiring, and uplifting. Let Fabian know your thoughts by leaving a comment on this video. Do spread the word and invite others to subscribe to Musings Television. Until next week, may your hearts remain ever joyful.